Killing Mr. Griffin, Chapter 3, page 28. Davy, is that you, dear? Yes, Graham. Who else? Aren't you going to come in and see me? Sure, just a sec. David finished spreading mustard on a slice of bread, laid a hunk of cheese on it, and doubled it over. Picking up the sandwich with one hand and a glass of milk with the other, he left the kitchen and walked through the small, dark living room into the bedroom beyond. The old lady was in her accustomed place in the armchair by the window, the spot from which she could look directly across into the bedroom window of the house next door. She was wearing her blue flowered housecoat, and her long hair was pulled back and held in place with a blue ribbon, so that it fell limp and gray over the slanted shoulders and down the back in the style of a teenage girl. So, an after-school snack is more important than coming in to say hello to your grandmother. Not usually, Graham. Today I missed lunch. David crossed the room and leaned over to place a dutiful kiss on the pink, rouged cheek. The skin felt cool and dry to his lips and so soft that it seemed to sink beneath the pressure of the kiss and lie there, indented. What have you been doing today? What do I ever do? Watch the game shows. A lady today from Kansas City had to guess something behind a curtain that cost $5,000. What do you think it was? Any clues? The man, the one who asked the questions, he told her it runs. A car? David guessed. That's what she thought. But it turned out to be a racehorse. Can you imagine? Did you ever think a horse would be worth that much money? The poor lady didn't get anything except some little consolation prize like a hairdryer or something. It doesn't seem fair, does it? They kept saying things to make her think it was going to be a car. Well, that's how it goes, I guess. But it wasn't fair. The week-old eyes settled upon David's sandwich. What is that you have there? Swiss cheese? That does look good. Would you like me to make you one? Well, maybe just a half. Your mother went off to work this morning and didn't bother to leave anything fixed for my lunch. Only a little bit of tuna. She didn't even leave a Jell-O. I know we have some. I saw the package last night when she brought it home from the grocery. I'll make it up. If I do it now, it'll be gelled by dinner. Make up the green. It's got the most flavor. The green it shall be. He left the bedroom and went back to the kitchen. The remains of the sandwich makings were spread out on the table, and he eyed them carefully, wondering if he had left enough cheese for the promised sandwich. Deciding that he had not, he took some out of his own and replanted it between two fresh slices of bread. He put a pan of water onto the stove to boil and opened the cabinet where his mother stored foodstuff. There were 2 boxes of Jell-O, cherry and banana. Good old Mom, he muttered resignedly. She bought everything but green. There were times when he wondered if his mother did this sort of thing deliberately, knowing that the old woman liked green Jell-O, and knowing, too, that he would be the one stuck with telling her that it wasn't there. As soon as he allowed such a conjecture to cross his mind, he was swept with guilt. His mother did well to make it to the grocery store at all after a full day taking dictation and typing. In her place, another woman would have forgotten the Jell-O completely, or maybe even not have come home at all. There were women who did that, just took off and went when things got too rough for them. He had read an article on that subject only recently. The author had given some startling high number of such cases that said that runaway wives in America were soon going to equal or exceed the number of runaway husbands. But his mother would not be one of them. Of that, he would be sure. To begin with, she wasn't a wife and hasn't been one for over 10 years. On top of that, she was super responsible. Everybody told him that. His aunts, the neighbors, even their minister. I hope you appreciate your mother, the Reverend Chandler had said one Sunday after services. There aren't many women who would do what she has, taken an invalid mother-in-law into her home to love and care for after being deserted by her own husband. Your mother's a saint, son, and don't you forget it. You're a lucky boy to have the opportunity to grow up in her home. I know it, sir. David had assured him, conscious of his mother standing behind him, knowing without looking that she had heard the minister's words and was pleased by them. When they reached the car, she had been smiling a little, and the harsh lines between her eyes and at the corners of her mouth had softened. At that moment, she had looked startlingly like the girl in the wedding picture that David had found one day in a suitcase in the attic. Would you like to stop and pick up some ice cream on the way home? She had asked him. The pleasant mood had stayed with her most of the rest of the day. Davy, coming, Graham. I've got your sandwich. He carried it to her on a plate. Do you want some milk? No, it curdles my stomach. That's what happens when you get old. Have you made the Jell-O? I'm getting ready to now. Back in the kitchen, he poured the boiling water into a bowl and mixed in the banana gelatin and added ice. He set the bowl in the refrigerator and ran more water into the sink over the breakfast dishes. He dumped in detergent. David Ruggles, president of the senior class, king of the sink. His lips curled wryly. What would the kids at school think if they could see him now? David had never overestimated himself. He knew exactly who he was and what he could do with what he had. He knew he was handsome. It was an unusual sort of handsomeness, but it was there, and it worked. He looked exactly like his father. He couldn't remember his father very well, but he knew what he looked like from the wedding picture. His father had been a small man, slightly built, with the most beautiful face in the world. When David looked at himself in the mirror, he saw that face looking back at him. Fine-boned, delicate, perfectly shaped, with gentle eyes and a fine, sensitive mouth. He wondered sometimes what his father had been like as a person, with a face like that. He compared the face with his mother's, strong and sensible, and he tried to imagine the two of them together, laughing and joking and holding hands. Kissing, perhaps. It was impossible. In his mind, his father's face was floating on a cloud, and his mother's coming in the door behind a bag of groceries. One was a dream, the other reality.
Miss Wilkerson?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I have Azari onto the office, please?
Yes.